Well, hello there again, friends. Today is 9/25/2022, and today is the Odin Project blog day 149. And I was misled in the last video. At the very end, I was excited to move on away from this section and move into intermediate Git, and then conversely into React, and I forgot there was another project. So we are not done with search algorithms just quite yet. So we have project Night Travails, and I'm going to go ahead and read the introduction and get right to the code. So the introduction says, now you're a pro with DFS and BFS. Let's try using our search algorithms on a real problem. For this project, you'll need to use a data structure that's similar but not identical to a binary tree. For a summary of a few different examples, reference this article. And definitely go out there and reference that on your own time. It says a knight in chess can move to any square on the standard 8x8 chessboard from any other square on the board given enough turns. Don't believe it? See this animation. And I won't click on it, but you can. It just basically shows the knight traversing the entire board until all spaces are filled. Its basic move is 2 steps forward and 1 step to the side. It can face any direction. All the possible places you can end up after one move with the knight looks like this. So, 2 up, 1 over, 2 up, 1 over, 2 over, 1 up, 2 over, 1 down, and you get the point. So those are all the points that he can land on in that one move. So the assignment is, your task is to build a function, knight moves, that shows the shortest possible way to get from one square to another by outputting all squares the knight will stop on along the way. You can think of the board as having a 2-dimensional coordinate array. Your function, therefore, would look like this. Knight moves, and then here's an example showing you that position 0, 0 and 1, 2 is the same as 0, 0, 1, 2. And so this 0, 0, 1, 3, 3 is the same as 0, 0, 1, 2, and 3, 3 with an extra position move in the middle of 1, 2. And these represent coordinates on the board. I can't tell you how, admittedly, I'll always be honest with you guys, how long it took me to figure out what these actually mean. So from my best understanding, the first value in the array is the row. So that's the up or down. And then, at least that's how I'm doing it in my program. The second array value is the column, which would be your side to side. And so that's how I wrote my notes. I even had to put this into pseudocode because I was like, what are they trying to? Because I was trying to look at the board here and I was getting confused because 1 and A, and I wished this was just numbers as well. But anyway, nevertheless, I think I got it figured out, at least for my doings. You guys can have a different approach if you want. Really doesn't really matter, I don't think, as far as positioning, value, row versus column, as long as you stay consistent. So I'm choosing to do row first, column second. If you choose to do column first, row second, that's probably fine. Just make sure you stay consistent in your code. Otherwise, you will have very unusual and wrong algo solutions. And then number 1 here is what I got done for today. Put together a script that creates a game board and a knight. And I was like, this will take me about 45 minutes. No, it didn't. Because originally when I thought that, I was like, okay, well, this game board looks a whole lot like tic-tac-toe, just a lot larger. And I like the way I did tic-tac-toe, and I like the way that it laid itself out in the end. So I was like, well, I'll just not really even refactor. I'll just copy over that code and use that CSS and that HTML as boilerplate, and then move right in, be done with that, move right into number 2, which is starting to look at the algorithm itself, which is the meat and potatoes of the exercise. But that didn't happen. For long story short, I tried it, it didn't work. I had to scrap it and start over from scratch. So without further ado, let's hit the editor. So start out, we have to itch that scratch here and get back to using live server. It's been a hot minute. I had to do a lot of this was me trying to remember things. We haven't done CSS in a long time. Shoot, we haven't really even done JavaScript you know, to the browser in a long time, so had to re-familiarize myself with a few things. But here's your standard boilerplate. I I had a really long when I was trying to make my code boilerplated from tic-tac-toe. This became a mess basically. So basically, I chopped it all up, changed the heading to H1 Night Travails. I got my button here and two buttons, one for submit game start, one for clear game. They currently don't do anything. They're just planted and placed on the page. And then I've got my script tag here, source app.js. Type module. I had to use that because I was getting a error when I was trying to do an export in my code. You'll see here in a minute on Gameboard. When I was trying to export Gameboard to app.js, it was giving me an error because it needed that type module in there. And so that's why that's in there. Had to Google that. Of course, it's been a hot minute since we've worked on, or I've worked on exporting and importing. So yeah, so that's basically HTML. Don't want to belabor that too much. We've got quite a bit of code to go over here, and I don't want to make the video overly long. As always, again, like with everything, my way isn't the best way. It may not be the only way. It's just the way I did it. Same goes with my styling, the game board, and the app script files, and then more to come on that. So here's the styles sheet here. We'll briefly look at it, but I think it makes more sense looking at the browser. So if I have time at the end, I'll show it to you in the browser. It's pretty self-explanatory. We have a targeted selector for start game button clear that gives a margin top. Again, I haven't really focused on that too much. I did port that small little piece of code over from tic-tac-toe. And then IMG is for an image. I brought over a night, as we'll go over here in a minute. It's got a height of 75 pixels and a width of 75 pixels. And then I have a center class, and its margin left, auto, right, auto, and top is 50. That's for the use of the centering of the chessboard. H1 is declared here directly as black and text align center. That would be for the title. And white cell, black cell. These are targeted classes for the game board script that we'll look at here in a minute. It targets those for getting the correct color for each cell, because I wanted it to mimic a chessboard. And then cell here is the definition of the actual cells, the height, the width, the border, and the style inset. So that's just the way the cell looks on the page. And then body, of course, is the background color for the whole page, and the text aligning it centered again. Just keeping that simple theme of centering. So I'm going to game board here, the meat and potatoes for today. And I spent a long time on this. This looks pretty. Sorry guys, I should have blown this up for you. This should look pretty easy. When you look at it, it's not too daunting, but it took me a lot of cobweb knocking to get this done. I spent a good portion of yesterday working on this, so today is Sunday. I'm putting up the video, but anyway, starting out here, create the chessboard module. So I have a game board module that's set up here, and it is just a regular module. It's not self-invoking. And then the module itself is exported down here. So I export it here as game board, and then on app.js, doing this weird crap again. And then I import it here with the import gameboard command, and then I call it right here inside of a self-invoking module called app controller. And so it's self-invoking, if you remember, because we have the extra parentheses there at the end. So it self-invokes when the app.js page is called, or app.js file is called, when it's called in the script tag right here. So just giving you the infrastructure of how this is set up so far. Again, this is subject to change, but that's how I have it right now. So back to the main game board here. We're going to instantiate variables and create the chessboard table. So I have a constant default start location 0, 0. This references the it's not there yet in the code, but this will reference later on when we reference the night and its position to start out at. I don't know if it's needed or not, but you know, the task did say to put together a script and create a game board in a night. So that is what I was attempting to do. Constant chord array. This is a temporary. This is a local variable to game board that's going to store our coordinates for an array for use in creating the coordinates of each cell. Excuse me. Const chest table equals document.createElement table. This creates the table that we're going to call chest table from here on out, and this will be a table, obviously table format that has table rows and table data in it, and cell data. And then I have a next section here. Create the board cells and apply position values to each cell. So what I have here is I have a chest table.set attribute. So I'm doing things a little bit different than I did in Etch-a-Sketch here. I'm using the set attribute. I honestly don't think I've ever used this before. I came across it when I was Googling something else, and so I just decided to use it in this theme for setting my classes. So right away we're setting the set attribute basically sets your class or whatever you want to set, but in this instance we're setting a class, and then your second parameter is what the class is doing. So qualified string, name string, and then the value string. So we're setting a class and we're setting it to center. And if you remember, class of center is here. So basically we're telling it we want to apply that CSS to chest table. So then we go into a for loop here. Not too surprising here. We have an 8x8 chessboard, so we're going to have an 8 loop. So it's going to loop through 8 times. And then we're going to have, so we're going to start out with a constant table row equals document.createElementTr. So this creates the table row. It's going to do this 8 different times to create 8 rows to create our table, which is going to be our chessboard on the screen. Let cell row coordinates equals math.absolute I-7. This is just a fancy way of, I'll go ahead and show you the visual representation here. So the numbers are in here just to help me keep my eyes straight and keep the coordinates right in my head as I'm working through it. So I had to do math.absolute I-7 because, as you can see here, I am incrementing my I. And so before, well, technically this is row 1 right here. So when this is, well, row 0 technically. But so row 0 was printing the row 0 up here, and so this was counting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I wanted my 0, 0, 0 coordinates to be down in this corner where the knight is currently sitting. So I had to basically invert it. So I have I minus the current I minus 7 to get that absolute value, but as you know, that's going to be a negative number. So if we do math.abs, that will convert the negative number into a positive number, and then that creates the 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 as I wanted it. Yes, there's probably easier or cleaner ways to do it. I actually tried adjusting the for loop, but I ran into a bunch of issues there, so I just kept it incrementing, and I ran into other issues that I wasn't expecting, so I changed it back to that, and then just decided to use the math.absolute to change the cell row coordinate plots. And you're seeing it on the screen because I am setting the cell row coordinate to the text content of the table row variable. And I have a to-do here to remove when done, because all this line does is just sets that text. So and then we have another embedded for loop, and this is also going through 8 times. This is looping through for each cell. So this is creating, so now you've got your 8 by 8, if you will, table. And so we have a constant table cell in here, which is creates the element TD, which if you remember is table data. So this is going to be the cell, each cell, and then let cell column coordinator cell column coordinate basically to equal z, and that's the incrementing z value. Just the same process as for the previous for loop, except we're using z, basically. And then we're going to apply that cell coordinate to z as well. And that's how you get that to that text content. And then we're gonna do here's your shading. I actually probably put this in here. Loop through to shade, or loop through to shade odd valued cells. Okay, so we have a thing here. Go ahead and save this. We have a if statement here. If I plus z mod 2, which if it equals 0, meaning it's an even number, we're going to make it a white cell. So as you can see here, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. You get the point. Well, it doesn't because the way I have the code set up, it restarts on each row. And this is white. White on the basically it's white on the evens and black on the odds. And so we have a table cell.say attribute class. This is the cell white class we're targeting, which is in our CSS here, right there, or excuse me, right here, white and black cell, targeting those just like I said we would earlier. And then table row.append child. So now we're just appending the table cell to the table row, and then that is that. And then essentially what we're doing here is I'm pushing the cell row coordinate and cell column coordinates into that coordinate array that we created up here above, because we're going to need that to be able to apply the coordinates to each position. So what I ended up doing here, as you can see in the next line, is I created a data set called chord array, and that's going to take on the current array namespace of chord array. So whatever was in the row and column is now being set as the data set, and then I'm splicing it out. I may change this. I like it right now, but if I'm honest, I was thinking about this after I got done, and I may have to maybe refactor this or do this in a different module, because I have to figure out a way for the next part to create a 2D array, because right now I'm splicing it, which means I'm removing it. I'm splicing it with 0, 2, meaning we're starting at index 0 and we're removing 2. So there's currently 2 when we push this one as 1 value, push this as second value, we apply it to the data set, and then we remove it. So when I do that, then the chord array is now empty again with nothing in it. So I can't really use that if I leave it like that. I can't use that as a 2D array to run the algorithm against. So we'll see. I haven't gotten that far yet, but just thinking out loud with you guys. Else, if that's not true, meaning I plus z mod 2 does not equal 0, meaning it's an odd number, we are going to set the attribute to black using that cell black cell class, and doing the same exact thing as we did in the previous loop, so I won't go over that again. We're just pushing the cell row, cell column, applying it to the data set. And if you don't recall, the data set is the let's see if I can pull one up here real fast. Lots of them here, obviously. The data set creates a data chord array, data-chord-array here, and then 7, 0 is a string value, but this represents the coordinate of that. So this is going to be this one right here at the corner, highlighted there. So it's going to be 7 up high, or 7 going vertical, and 0 going horizontal. So 7, 0. Again, like I said, I decided to make my row is the first number, and my second value in the array is the column. And so that matches up for all of them, actually. So that maps out to every single one of them, and that's how that works. And then splicing it out here again, making it 0. And the reason I'm splicing it out is because if I didn't do that, these would all have basically run on arrays in them, and nothing would be just a coordinate. It would have a whole bunch of, so like, for instance, by the time you got over here to 777, you would have 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, or 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, if that makes sense, in that array. So by the time you got down here, you had a whole bunch of junk in there that didn't make any sense. So I just thought of a clever way in the middle of working on this to splice that out. Like I said, I may change that, but and then we have a append child here. We're going to append the table row to chest table. Nothing new there, stuff we've done before. And then here, create knight and place him at position 0, 0. So here we're going to have create a constant cell nodes is taking on chest table.query selector all. So here we are. We're selecting every single table data cell TD, and then we're calling it cell node. And if you remember, when you do query selector all, that's a node list. That's why I called it cell nodes, just for my my visual representation. So cell nodes, we're going to do a for each on each cell node, and so in each cell node, we're going to run an if statement. So if default location dot toStrings, we're going to convert it to a string. If you remember, the default start location is defined up here as 0, 0. So if 0, 0 equals in the strict form cellnode.dataset.chord array, so when it finds that match, we're going to let king image equal document.create element. So we're going to create an element, img element, and call it king image. Excuse me. And then king image.source, we're pointing it to this location, was where my asset lives. My image, my SVG file, lives in assets, so that is the location of it. And then we're going to append the knight image to cell node, to that particular cell node parameter. So whatever cell node we're on in the for each loop, it'll get applied. And then in the last here, we're going to document.body.append child. We're going to append the chest table to the actual HTML document. And then the export. So that's how that works. So to prove to you that this this little chunk here works pretty slick, we can go up here. You can see in my current knight travails, I'm at 0, 0 with the knight. Let's change the position to 7. So we're going to move him from the bottom left corner to the upper left corner. Save it, refresh, and we're now up here. And see the numbers, it's making it a little off center because that number's in there, but that's just text content. It will be removed at some point here when I don't need it anymore, probably towards the end of the exercise. And that's why I have these to-dos to remind me. And so let's move him to kind of the middle of the board. Let's do 3. Let's do 3, 3. There you go. So now he's at height row 3 and column 3. Remember, it's 3 because we're starting at 0. So here's your 0, 0, 0, and then there's your 3, 3, and 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's how that works for now. Again, some of this might be subject to change, but for right now, that's how I have it. And again, you guys can do this however you want. This is just the way I'm doing it for right now. It may change based on the needs of the algo that I'm going to create in the next section. And then this I've already been over. This is just app controller. I just made this in the, actually I originally was thinking about making it for DOM manipulation only, but I quickly found that the way I was doing it here, I was trying to separate out my DOM from my for loops and everything, but it was becoming a disaster of a mess trying to put those in their own modules and own files. So I just went ahead, and it's still, to me, it's still dry. It's still single scoped, so I feel pretty good. It's still following solid principles because it is creating the DOM. Yes, it's doing DOM inside of the game board, but it's kind of necessary, and it's not a ton of DOM. And we're just creating the game board. So really I don't think I'm violating solid principles. We're still just making a game board, and part of that game board is putting it on the screen. So that's that. This video has went longer than I anticipate, like they all do. Like I said, the add player and start game, clear board, don't do anything yet. Haven't gotten that far, but this is where I've gotten. So pretty excited about that. So in the next section, I will be going to number 2. And moving on from there. So tree all possible moves a knight could make as chosen in a tree don't allow us. Looks like we're gonna basically start looking for a search algorithm that I want to use. So I'll have to go through that, and that'll be for the next video. And making that 2D array I mentioned earlier, either augmenting and refactoring what I have here, or just creating a separate mod, which I will anyway, but create a separate module and a separate file and recreate the 2D array. We'll see. But anyway, thanks for sticking through the end with me. If you did, I know this one went long, and I appreciate every one of you guys. I appreciate all the new subscribers that have come, and I hope I brought value to you today. Please like, share, and subscribe for more content, and let me know in the comments section how you guys are coming along with setting up your chessboard and getting your knight in place and getting things ready for the algo. So for the search algo. So with all that said, till next time, see ya.